Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for FourCast is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of FourCast is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to publish a high-quality website or blog. For a free 14-day trial, go to squarespace.com/forecast.
What sort of future do you think we're heading for? How will we live as we slip into the 21st century?
Welcome to FourCast, episode 67. I'm Eileen Rivera.
I'm Kim Johnson.
And we are hijacking FourCast today. Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
Yes.
Happy Valentine's Day. Where's Tom? I don't see Tom. Is he over there somewhere hanging out?
Wait, what do you don't talk until you're introduced,
I know.
right?
You ruined our intro. You ruined our intro. So our husbands, the normal hosts, are not hosting. We are. Like I said, we are hijacking, but we're not really doing a good job. And they are the guests, right, Kim? Shall we?
That's right.
Shall we now introduce the guests of FourCast this week?
Go for it. You want to introduce me? Or?
Yeah, I'd love to introduce you.
All right. Who am I?
Talking
Sorry. I'm shutting up.
Yes. This is already awesome.
We've got Scott Johnson here with us at the booth.
Yeah, I'm the host of shows and what else? I do some other cool stuff.
Whatnot.
They can follow me on Twitter. No, I'm not doing all that. It's great to be here, Kim. I feel like I've been here before somehow.
Thanks. It's great to have you.
All right. Thanks very much.
And over across from me is Tom Merritt.
It's nice to meet you, Eileen.
Let's not do that.
It's really good to be here. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, yeah. Why don't you tell everybody where you're from, what you do?
Oh, I host a show called Tech News Today. It's on the Twit Network, stands for This Week in Tech. You can find it at twit.tv/TNT every day.
Awesome. Well, thanks for letting us host the show. How are you feeling about this, Kim?
Thanks. Thanks for letting us do this.
You know what's cool about this? Can I just bust in here?
Thanks for force marching us to do this.
I'm excited about it because it's Valentine's Day, and we don't like last time we did this together. It was the chairs were turned. We were interviewing our wives and asking them their predictions, and we have yet to be on this show. Tom and I ever asked for our specific predictions. We often comment and talk about ones we hear, but we never get to kind of have our own. And the pressure's on, man. I didn't realize how people felt when we said, just come up with these 3 predictions. It's easy.
I know.
Show up and stuff. But then I really had to think about it. I'm like, this is kind of hard.
Yeah, it's not hard once
sympathy.
you get going. It's hard to start rolling. It's hard to get the juices. Once you get the juices flowing, it's pretty easy. And I think what I realized is it seems easy in the course of the show because the conversation starts going, and then you and I come up with all kinds of ideas based on the other people. But they are the ones. This is the brilliance of hosting this show. They are the ones who have to do all the hard work.
Yeah, they do. They sit and they come up with these brilliant ideas. We riff on those. We move on. We do a little thing for an advertiser in the middle, and we sew it up at the end. Done. Out of there. Finished. And they were all like in the hot seat the whole time. And I have a newfound respect for our many, including you and Eileen. That time you guys came on.
Yeah, you're now in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Good for you.
But happy Valentine's Day, honey, and Eileen and Tom. And I'm looking forward to seeing what this turns out like in the end. I'm a little nervous, but I think it'll be fine.
All right, well, why don't we just go ahead and dive right in, and let's get some predictions from our listeners regarding, this is an email from Adrian Jenkin, regarding episode 64 called Infinity is Freaking Huge. You guys missed the opportunity, you missed the opportunity to mix from an old show. You've spent the day making furniture with your 3D printer, and eventually you turn it off. If I'm reading this correctly. Whoa. All of a sudden, my dog...
Run a cleaning solution through it, and then hook it up to your gray goop tank, where you print out your roast chicken.
I got it. 3 vegetables and roast potatoes with a glass of red. As it prints, it modifies the taste, texture, and color, possibly, to be just perfect for yourself. This way, who needs to have a matter transporter to create your food?
Now, right now, 3D printers print layer by layer. So this would be great for things like 7-layer dip or layer cakes but I'm not sure if every food would come out well in the 3D printer sense.
Yeah. Well, plus this all came from shows where we talked about, like, I've been complaining we don't have teleportation yet, and that's something that sci-fi has been promising us for, I don't know how long, for, decades, and we still don't have it. But you could argue that, well, we don't need it if I have other devices and technologies that sort of bring everything I need to me. And this idea that we could just replicate our furniture or our food or our clothes is probably where he's getting some of this inspiration. But my opinion on the food thing is I'm the wrong generation for this. If they come out, let's say when I'm 60 and they come out with this tech and they say, here you go, you can now make your 7-layer dip. I'm very wary of this idea. Like, I don't like the idea that a machine is in charge of my food. Now, there's a generation ahead of me that would probably say, well, I don't like machines determining whether or not I get an email, and I'd rather send a good old-fashioned piece of paper through the mail. Exactly. And so I'm probably just that same guy, different generation, same thing. But it weirds me out that a machine would be making my 7-layer dip. What if he just screws up on the bean layer or something?
Well, what, you trust Safeway or IGA or, the A&P store to sell you 7-layer dip, right? That's much more fallible. At least you know what ingredients went into the 3D printer.
Well, I have a false sense of security at a store for some reason, but when a neighbor brings over 7-layer dip, and Kim can testify to this, I don't like eating other people's food. Like all the Christmas things that come to the door. Yeah, dude, I don't know what went into that. Whose runny nose was in front of it. Like, I don't trust any of that stuff.
That's
and even though
I
realized
can attest to that. Scott is very wary of.
I'm skeptical of that stuff. I don't know why. If I go to, I realize at a Safeway, some teenage kid could be rubbing boogers in my food. I don't know, but somehow that's not a problem for me. But when it's people that I know, even if I know them and like them, I know they're making and anything that looks like they shaped it with their hands, like a powdered like chocolate ball or something. They went like this to make it. Somebody's 5-year-old with the flu made this little ball. I can't.
Why do you assume everyone is sick?
He's thinking December.
They all have because it's December. Flu season's just starting to come in. People are sick. Plus,
that's how you build your immune system, Scott.
They don't wash their hands. Some little kid playing around with dogs and stuff, and then wiped his nose and then made my chocolate ball. Ugh.
I have to agree with some of that, the way you're describing it, certainly. But I'm very excited about 3D printing. I'm really seriously thinking about ordering one of those MakerBot kits and putting together a 3D printer. We could print out chew toys for the dogs.
Oh.
That's awesome. Where are we going to put it?
I knew you were going to say that. In the garage. There's actually plenty.
Well, I know. I mean, Kim, you love to cook. Would it help you to know that all you'd have to do is say roast beef dinner on a button and bam?
I don't know if I trust it either. I like to cook, so I like to create it.
So you would miss out on making it.
I would miss out on making it.
Well, what if you could print out all the ingredients you needed without having to go to the store?
Oh, I'd like that.
That would be better.
You're cool
that
with
would
that.
be fantastic.
I'm okay with that too, actually, now that you say that, Tom. It's all about the assembly.
Yeah.
If it's somebody I can either watch or have some weird mental block that everything's fine in the Chi-Chi's kitchen, which I know it isn't. But if I can have that block, then I'm okay either way. So that's a cool way to do it. You can still cook that way.
Yeah.
Hey, if other people have predictions, Eileen, where would they send them to?
Well, thanks for asking, Tom. Send us your predictions. Email fourcastpodcast@gmail.com or post at fourcastpodcast.com. I guess we're going to go ahead and move along to short-term predictions. Now, these are things you think will happen sooner than later, maybe in the next few years. And why don't we start with the gentleman sitting across from me, Mr. Tom Merritt. Short-term prediction, please.
Thank you, dear. My short-term prediction is that all television will be delivered over the internet by the year 2020. So within 9 years. Now, that doesn't mean I think broadcast over the air will shut down or cable will shut down, but I think all television will also be available over the internet. How we get there is going to be messy, costly, and complicated, but it's going to happen. And the reason is because consumers want it. They're demanding it in greater numbers as they realize the convenience of being able to watch what you want, where you want. That's going to happen. But it's not going to be, everybody says, well, but then it'll all be on demand, and that'll be the end of, terrestrial broadcast. It's not going to be like that. There's still going to be linear broadcasting, and that's evidenced by Twitter. Just today, Dick Costolo, CEO of Twitter, was saying, we are saving live broadcasts because everybody wants to watch together on Twitter. Everybody wants to watch the Grammys live and post about it at the same time. In fact, things are going to stop being delayed, is another part of my prediction. Live events will be live streamed to everyone at once, and then Twitter will be the gathering place, or maybe Facebook, where everyone chats about what they're seeing.
I really hope that's true. I mean, that example about the Grammys is exactly, I was kind of laughing. I had seen 3 hours earlier, everybody on the East Coast or whoever else was watching the show early, so I already knew who won. I already knew the awesome, performances or what really sucked. I almost thought about going back in my Twitter feed and just kind of reading back along while I watch the show live because, I have all the commentary there, which is awesome.
So true.
I did that with Super Bowl a bit, like
you did?
I was I found myself far more interested in what my friends were saying about the game or a play or a run than I was about the actual commentators on Fox. Like that was not as interesting to me as funny commentary from people I follow or insightful commentary from people I follow. I got just a bigger range of responses that you can't get in a single broadcast. And so I think Tom's probably right. I mean, we're already on that bandwagon. Yeah. What, 3 years ago was it? About 3 years ago, we got rid of cable or satellite.
Wow.
And we are a Hulu, Netflix, iTunes, Amazon on-demand family. And we get everything through these methods. And it works really well for us. And I think the day it really finally worked for you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but is the day we got that Roku.
Oh, Roku is my favorite.
Yeah. So Roku kind of put her over the edge. It's like easy interface, piece of cake. This is like regular TV again. I was willing to deal with, all right, well, this computer is going to act like a TV for a while, and we're going to use a mouse on it. And, I was willing to kind of hack my way through the early stages of that. But that finally, and Apple TV to a lesser extent, kind of brought that experience, back to what it should be, which is sitting on our butts and, on the couch watching something we want to watch when we want to watch it, mostly commercial free. The only thing I disagree with Tom on this is that I think it'll happen sooner than that.
I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that. I want to be a little conservative with this prediction because I think it could come within 5 years, but there's a lot of things that could also go wrong and delay it. You think back, people in the chat, some of the people in the chat room are like, no way, the cable companies will never let this happen, or the broadcasters will never let this happen, or the internet companies won't have enough bandwidth to let this happen. But if you think back in the year 2000, if we had said by the middle of this decade, every single song will be available DRM free for purchase on the internet, people would have said exactly, no, the record companies will never let it happen. There won't be enough bandwidth for people to be downloading all those MP3s. No one will ever. iTunes made it happen. By 2005, you could buy, actually, Amazon helped make it happen too. You could buy all major label music and most indie music online DRM free. It will happen. And the reason it'll happen is somebody out there wants to make money off of this huge consumer demand for convenience.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with that. I think, though, well, I mean, you always say, Tom, why wasn't it Comcast or why wasn't it someone else to be the first Hulu, to be the first Netflix streaming, to be this thing that other entrepreneurs and other companies are figuring out how to be? And why are they just dragging their feet so long? Because it's inevitable. They could make it like they could be the impetus for this finally happening. It could be a Comcast or a Time Warner or a major media network with lots of resources, money, and content that could finally say, all right, well, the writing's on the wall. We know what people want. We're going to provide an a la carte solution that is akin to essentially what I'm doing now, but with more choice, with more revenue-making possibilities for them, and the bandwidth that they have to make that happen. Maybe it's Google. Maybe it's Google TV in 5 years. I don't know, but there needs to be that company, and it very well may be somebody who's digging their heels in now, finally lifting up a little and saying, oh, crap, if we don't lead this, we're going to lose.
Well, hopefully, again, that happens really soon because events like the Olympics which is a pain for those of us who live in the West Coast.
Yeah,
That would be-
sports is actually ahead of the game here. You can get Major
Well,
League
except for the
Baseball
Olympics.
streaming live. You can get NHL streaming live on the Roku. You can get other sports like the NBA streaming live on Google TV. The Olympics is behind, like you said.
Jeez. All right. I think we've exhausted that. Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
your short-term prediction, please.
My short-term prediction, or my short one. Why not?
Keep it short, Johnson.
I'm gonna keep this short. My short-term prediction is this: 5 to 10 or so years from now, I believe that religion and science are going to have some kind of war with each other, and it may literally be a war. It probably won't be, here's our army, here's your army, let's fight on a battlefield in a very traditional way. But I think that they will fight in cyberspace, and I mean real fighting, like taking down servers and denial of service attacks and whatever those things will be called in 10 years.
Cyber war.
It's totally cyber war, and they will square off in a way that we've never seen before. You'll see the banding together of diverse groups of religions that have otherwise very different belief systems and theologies. They'll band together and fight science, and science will become essentially a religion, but one that is uniquely, there'll be one group with one sort of mindset, like, well, here are the facts, here are the studies, here are the things, and they'll go up against this behemoth group of a combination of various kinds of religious points of view, and there will be some ugly, ugly times ahead. And I think it will stifle innovation. I think it will mess with the very culture of nations like ours, to the point that we'll have divisions that will cause perhaps real blood and tears sort of wars. It sounds very bleak and horrible. And then now that I say it, I think I agree that it sounds like that. But I really feel like we're kind of headed that way. And I'm trying not to let just a few sound bites from Fox News and MSNBC and Glenn Beck and other people sort of influence the way I see this, or even statements from different scientific communities that are kind of volatile and stir things up as oh my gosh, people are saying this, so therefore we're heading down this road. But I feel like it's part of a larger movement towards this division, and it will divide families and people and cities and states, and will be and that's just here. I think it'll happen all over the world, but I think that will be the next major battlefield. And it'll be a very ideological one.
So it'll be a return to Middle Ages.
Kind of, yeah.
Because there was a huge battle between religion and science that started with Christianity, and mostly the Roman Church, suppressing science. And it took hundreds and hundreds of years for science to work its way through the system to be acceptable. And even then, you had things like, wait a minute, you suggesting that the Earth is not at the center of the universe? I think you're a heretic. You're going to recant that, and so you're saying we're gonna head back to that kind of situation. Yeah.
Oh.
Looks like
And
science
this is the
took
point of the
Scott
show
Johnson off the
where-
internet.
Yes.
Well, to talk about what
Yeah,
he's...
I think so.
Okay, there we go.
Skype completely glitched out on me there. Sorry.
Science struck at you.
Science.
Yes.
Science. Yeah,
Science did not
made a
like
blow.
your prediction.
Here's Tom Wright brings up a really good point. So this is kind of there's historical precedence for this. I think what's interesting about it in this day and age, because this is what I think will happen. You'll have a scientist that'll come out and say, "Oh, guess what? We just found definitive proof that such and such thing happened, or this is how it happened, or this is how long it took to happen," and you'll have this conglomeration of very rich religious groups saying, "Oh, we can't let this happen." That guy will suddenly be kidnapped. No one will know what happened to him. It'll be blamed on a car accident. It'll be some stealthy, take this dude out and don't let him talk anymore. And it'll kind of happen on the other side. It'll be a little bit of, turnabout is fair play going on. And there'll be some really sneaky, nasty things going on, which, again, a lot of that happened in the Middle Ages. People were jailed for life. People were tortured. People were killed for simply saying that, we're not the center of the universe or whatever. And I feel like that kind of stuff is just at a weird bubbling point. And what makes it, what I was going to say is what makes it different now is we are a smart, intelligent, advanced civilization. And I feel like the more we know, the easier it is. It's hard to explain, but the more we know, the easier it is to argue against it, because it's just so big and crazy. Whatever piece of science you're arguing against, and it's so advanced that sometimes the easy thing is just to simply go bah and write it off.
Well, I think that is a failure in our educational system.
I agree.
Because if you look at it, the Catholic Church is one of the most science-friendly religions on the planet these days. That seems very odd considering its history. But the reason that it is because they actually encourage scientific education. At some point, they decided to, better to play ball and embrace and adapt. And so they actually understand the science and are able to articulate, this is why evolution can be true and you can still believe in God. This is why, we don't have a problem with DNA. This is why, they can make those arguments very well. But the lack of education means that you have a lot of people who can't make those arguments. And so when it comes down to, faith or science, it sounds like it's the same argument. Like, I can either believe this guy who tells me something I don't understand and I have to take it on faith because he's a scientist, or I can believe this guy who tells me something I have to take on faith and I have to believe him because he's a religious leader. And so then it's going to be whoever's the most persuasive. And let me tell you, going to a church with people you know and friends who are there for you in times of trouble is going to be a lot more persuasive in that situation than science, which doesn't really have that kind of community aspect. There's definitely a scientific community, don't get me wrong, but there's not weekly science meetings on Sunday where everyone goes around and talks about science and, brings a potluck dinner.
Yeah, you said it perfectly, exactly how I feel about it. And I also think that there's one way to turn this, and I'm going to put the onus on religion to turn back to what religion should be founded on, which is helping other people. Not spending all your time arguing theology or arguing scientific fact or fiction or any of that. Get back to, how do we help this widow who lives up the street whose husband just died, who needs help? She needs financial help. She needs help with her yard. Get as simple as that. She needs somebody to go take her garbage out on Wednesday nights. They need, just some help. Get back to those core basics of what religion, I say religion, I speak mainly of Christianity here, but the idea of getting back to those basics will ease that tension, will pull it away and have people less focused on global warming is total bunk, and instead they can go, oh my gosh, my neighbor has nothing for Christmas, lost his job. Let's band together and make sure they have Christmas this year. If they can get a return to that, I think that will keep this inevitable war I'm predicting from happening, at least happening as harshly as I'm predicting.
And I think better education would help that, because then people stop feeling threatened by scientific advances, understand, okay, this is how it works. It doesn't threaten my faith, and I can concentrate on doing just nice things for people.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's funny, when you first said this, Scott, I just kind of thought, isn't there still a battle between both? I don't know why I was just thinking that, but I understand the gravity of what you're saying.
It'll get hairy. People will be shooting each other and stuff. That's how bad it'll. I mean, if my prediction is true, and I hope I'm exaggerating because you never know. But sometimes it's just. We talk about this all the time. It's depressing. It's like, people just forget their roots. When I was being raised, my dad just made it really clear to me: religion in your life is all about helping everybody. It's about giving of yourself, shedding your own selfish needs, and doing something nice for somebody else. And not just, nice stuff, but really, genuinely giving of yourself to somebody else. And so now as an adult and hearing about what quote unquote religion and science are about now, I don't even feel like I'm in the same planet half the time as some people. I don't know what is the point of all of that. And again, part of it's loud minority, 24-hour news networks. I mean, all that stuff plays a role and makes it more amplified perhaps than it maybe is. But I got to think there are more like us and our family where we feel like the balance is there. And like Tom says, all you have to do is just sort of be educated and quit acting like it's us or them, and quit dividing everything black and white with these blanket statements and get us to it. I mean, I realize I sound like some kind of hippie looking for, yeah, we should all just be peace, love, and everything, man. But maybe I am. I don't know.
Put your shoes on, Johnson.
Get a haircut.
All right. Well, shall we move on to long-term predictions, Kim? What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right. These are the longer view predictions. More in 100 years, we'll all be flying cars sorts of predictions. Scott, why don't you go
We'll stay
first?
with me, eh?
Yeah.
All right. Long term.
Long term, 50 to 100 years.
50 to 100 years, you think? All right. 50 to 100 years from now, back to something more less scary. There will be no such thing as a music industry. And I don't just mean that we will have pirated it away or created an independent music scene that destroys it or any of that. I'm saying there will not be a music industry because at some point, we as consumers of the medium will be so saturated. Our brains will be so saturated with all the same chords and notes and rhythms and breaks and cuts that we will no longer find any of it unique or interesting, and we will stop being interested in it. We will not want to buy music anymore because music doesn't do anything for us. We'll be interested more in technologies that arise, like audio technologies that sort of do things for our brains that music maybe used to, but does it in a very scientific way, not unlike some of this aural stimulation crap they have now, which I think didn't do a thing for me. But you know, if that gets more advanced and they figure out a way to sort of tap into that, we'll find other ways of doing what music is doing for us now. And generations of nostalgists will come and go, and we'll all be thinking of, the 80s were great, but then we're going to die. And they're going to say, the 2000s were great, and then they're going to die. And eventually, it's all been done. We've heard it all before. We're going to be done with music.
I don't know.
What do you think about that?
Your creativity comes in. I think they thought everything was done in the past. Now here we are again listening to new stuff. I know you talked about that before with the chords. That's just the same. That's just a ripoff.
Well, that's
fake punk. That's what he tells our kids.
Well, no, this is where the conversation actually came from, or where I thought of this one. Is we're always talking to my kids, and I'm trying not to be old man Johnson here, but my kids like 80s music. But I try to explain to them the stuff they're listening to now is either a complete rehash of what I was into that was kind of innovative at the time, or at least I thought it was, or it's just riffing on something that was successful. So Blink-182 comes out with what I like to call fake punk. And Green Day and others kind of fit in that category, but they kind of took punk away from true punk artists and said, all right, we're going to make this thing that's more mainstream, palatable, and whatever. And they're laughing at us. I don't know why.
I'm laughing at Eileen, who is just in shock.
What are you talking about? We've had music for thousands of years. We've had just
but that's my
rhythms
point.
and I mean, I think there's always going to be some kind of music. Music defines so many people and defines people and cultures, and just I'm not even just talking a song. I'm talking beats and rhythms and things like that. I am confused. I'm confused. We've had it for thousands and thousands of years. I was like this. Dude, I've never heard Scott be this crazy in my life until just now. I'm like, what?
Oh, wait till you see what I'm saving for crazy ass.
Oh, no, that was crazy to me. That was so crazy.
But here's the thing. So I realize that, and you're right. And in thousands of years of human history, recorded history, we see music's influence. It's always kind of been there. I get that. I totally get that. I just think that the trend period, it just happens to be a longer period.
I'm making music right now.
I know you, and that will be so boring in 50 to 100 years.
I'm making music. It's my music.
Really boring in 50 to 100 years. But you see what I'm saying?
It wasn't in a cave a long time ago, was it? Though.
No, it's true. But I just think that we're gonna at some point we're gonna go. I don't know. I just feel like we can't just keep regurgitating the same stuff. And it's all regurgitating.
I like the way you originally phrased the prediction, which was there will be no music industry. That's different than saying there'll be no music.
But you said eventually you
I could see where we get to a point where music is just personal again. It's just something you do in a community, and in a family or on a small scale, and there is no like huge musical stars. Because
so I'm going to tack on what Tom just said, because I agree with it, and say that Eileen in that future would be able to walk into a room, her music room. She'll sit down in some kind of chair. She'll lean back, and she's in a very melancholy mood. And a machine, a robot, a construct of some kind, is going to construct music on the fly that appeals to her brain and hers alone at that moment in time. It's either a pick-me-up, it'll be smart enough to tell, and it'll be real time. It won't be you going, oh, what am I I think I'll go find some Van Halen. It isn't going to work that way anymore.
But the point is sharing. I don't want it to just be me. You want it to, music communal. And
well, that's what I'm saying, right? It will be sharing. It will be.
But
communal.
I think there's always something that's going to rise to the top, and people are going to want to know, and everybody's going to know about that.
All the songs have been recorded.
Yes, that's the part I don't agree with. That is exactly my point. Is I do not think at that point stuff will rise to the top and we'll go, ooh, Arcade Fire, who are they? I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I think instead it's going to be, Tom, come in here and listen to this thing that my bad mood computer gave me to listen to.
Well, apparently nobody knows who Arcade Fire is. I don't know if you've seen who is arcadefire.tumblr.com today, but since they walked away with the best album of the year, and apparently there are a ton of people who don't know who they are. So you are correct.
They're really good. That album is awesome. I've really been enjoying it. But now that they've won something, everyone's going to go all hipster on us and hate it.
Arcade Fire is just derivative.
Yeah. That is so yesterday. That is so literally yesterday.
Okay, so apparently we're not going to have music. Tom, your long-term prediction, please.
My long-term prediction, I'm not going to put an amount of years on, but in the long term, all politics will become local. National governments are going to become obsolete. We will have on the world level a confederation of corporations, non-governmental organizations, even regionalized governments, but I think they'll be more like municipal utility districts rather than national governments. And I actually think national governments will continue the way kings and queens continue. They'll be ceremonial, but they really won't have any power anymore. All the power will either be wielded locally or in a specialized manner based on the issue, because we'll realize that we were spending all this time feeding this huge power structure that wasn't helping us at all in all of these huge national organizations, when what really matters, what really impacts our daily lives, it's what happens in the local governments. And because of technological advance, we can actually have local governments cooperate on a worldwide level. And again, this is a very long-term prediction. This is not something that I think we could possibly do right now. But over time, I think everything will move that way.
So the way you describe it sounds like... It literally sounds like a game of Civilization to me, because you can. It's regional. So you've got a group over here that is very, let's say, science and innovation based, and let's say that's, I don't know, like if we divide the world back up again, maybe it's California up to Idaho and down. So I'm part of your side of things, and let's say that's all tech and stuff, and it started in Palo Alto and it spread out, and we're just a big tech heavy thing, and that's how we're advancing. And then in the Midwest, maybe it is agriculture, and they're very focused on that, and as a result, they're a very rich nation because they're feeding us. Do you feel like in that kind of localized, regionalized government, less conflict or more conflict from that? I think about this all the time.
Yeah, I think your prediction is a different prediction from what I'm saying. I don't think there'll be regions that big. I think it'll be localized areas like the San Francisco area, the Salt Lake area, the Northern California region, and it will be very small. And when you say, a lot of people, you raise the question of defense, how will that work out? Well, defense will mean what? There won't be any huge power structures to impose their will across the world around you. In this, there will be small organizations, and these sort of city-state kind of organizations could conceivably, and again, this is long-term, almost crazy prediction, but they could conceivably have organizations of mutual defense and pool into these, like I said, municipal utility district sort of things where there is a North American Defense League, and everyone who contributes to it contributes money, contributes research, contributes personnel, and that North American Defense League is a larger organization, but no one region underneath it can take control of it. It's sort of a NATO situation without the United States, without a dominant power. So you'll have continental organizations maybe, but the true power would be wielded on a local level.
So you wouldn't have anyone to answer to then, really, as a let's say it happens, just for sake of argument, it happens state by state. So let's say Kansas becomes its own sovereign nation essentially, and it communicates with everybody, and everybody's getting along fine. But then suddenly somebody in Kansas discovers a huge vein of gold underneath Kansas City, and it suddenly makes them the richest ore subnation on the continent. What does that mean? Does that just mean, because right now if that happens in the country, that's good for a state, but it's also
you're
really
assuming
good on a federal
gold's
level.
still worth something in the future.
Well, right. But I'm just trying to think of whatever. Like I don't know. You find a giant pit full of robot hookers, whatever it is.
I'm painting in broad strokes here, but technology allows you to keep companies honest. And so you're able to make sure that no company actually gains an unfair advantage because of transparency, because of the lack of privacy. And technology probably eliminates the out of proportion advantage of discovering a gold mine or a bunch of oil or whatever, because technology is distributed, manufacturing is distributed. Our 3D printers can make anything we want. So it doesn't matter if you've got a gold mine, because I can print me some gold, by putting some powder into it, right? Again, these are huge leaps. And I don't think it goes state by state. I think what we're seeing in places like Europe, for instance, Belgium right now is having a dispute where one part of Belgium wants to separate. The Flemish part wants to separate from the French-speaking part. And that's in Europe underneath the European Union. In the United Kingdom, you see devolution as a big trend, giving Scotland back their parliament, giving Wales self-rule. All of these smaller units are starting to be given more and more autonomy. And I think that if you take that trend and extrapolate it, that's how this happens. And how it plays out in the United States is a lot different than how it plays out in the rest of the world, because we don't have these sort of historic, ethnically organized regions like the rest of the world does. But I still think it could happen, and happen, based, again, on cultural rather than ethnic situations that will develop more and more over time.
How did you come up with this? Is this because you were watching Fringe and you noticed that the alternate universe had, sorry, spoiler.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, yellow.
Had something different than what we have now?
No, actually. It didn't. This is just something I've been, kicking around in my brain for a long time. It's informed by things like Nine Nations of North America and Patchwork Nation. And things that I've read, and just, European history, world history. But yeah, it's just, hey, you know what? It's just a long-term prediction. We'll just have to wait till we're all dead.
It seems like states the way we have them now was somebody's crazy prediction sometime. That seems like a crazy thing on the face of it before such a thing, before a system of government like we have in the 50 states, and before that colonies, and how that all evolved. But what it turned into is a weird new form of government that now we're used to for 100, 200 years, whatever.
Yeah, I started to imagine these stories around a character named Standard 5, who was going to be, out in space, commanding a starship, but he came from Earth. And being from Earth in this story was going to be like being from Europe is in the United States now. It's seen as sort of old-fashioned, backwards. And I was like, well, what is Earth like in this far, far future? And that's when I started thinking about this. This was, back in like 1998, 1999. I was like, well, I think nations are gone. And then I just started going from there. Well, what would cause that? And I extrapolated out. So it's an old prediction for me.
Okay. Well, a lot of people from Northern California would like to separate from Southern California.
Well, yeah, you know what? And I think that reading about those sort of like Western Kansas has a secession movement, Northern Illinois has a secession movement, started making me think about these sort of regionalizations as well.
Texas wants to be alone, and I'm generalizing now, but, these are things that you've heard and read and, seen. So are we done with the long-term prediction?
Yeah.
Are we good? All right, well, I think it's time for our sponsor.
Yeah. Our sponsor is Squarespace.
I know
fast
Squarespace.
and easy way to publish a high-quality website or blog. Squarespace has an easy-to-use UI. You've used it.
I've used it. I do use it for another podcast that I do called Bike Club Show, and it's very easy to use. There's many templates, very creative and gorgeous designs. And there's a lot of people that I know that do use it. Man, their blogs just look amazing. You don't have to do anything. You just create. Log on, and even start your free trial account and just start moving things around.
Yeah, we give you a 14-day free trial if you go to squarespace.com/4cast. That allows you to import your current blog if you've got one. From Blogger, Movable Type, TypePad, WordPress, whatever. You're not locked in. You can export it later, so it's not locking you into data, but you can import your current blog, see what it looks like, play around with it, see how easy it is to redesign with Squarespace. If you do know CSS, you can take advantage of that and get under the hood, but you can also take advantage of their easy tools. It's the best of both worlds. Add Flickr widgets, Twitter widgets, Google Maps, and more. Why don't you try it out? You don't need a credit card. Just sign up, squarespace.com/4cast, and take advantage of the free 14-day trial. And check out BikeClubShow.com. Check out SwordandLaser.com. Check out FourCastPodcast.com. Our very own website for this show is done in Squarespace, and you can see the really nice design that you can get with Squarespace. We thank them for their support.
Thank you, Squarespace. All right, time to move on to the crazy-ass predictions, which I thought Scott already had earlier in the show, but I'm wrong. So I can't wait for that. But first, we're going to stay with Tom. Now, these really far-out predictions, like in 2,000 years, will be made of cheese. Or what? Did somebody really say that?
No, that's
okay.
my
That's your
thing.
or whatever. There's no time frame or anything. Just dive in. Crazy, crazy, crazy. This is me going, oh, my God, you're crazy.
All right. My crazy prediction is we will have a return to our organic bodies after learning how to transport ourselves entirely into robots. And we will realize that it was a mistake. It was a huge mistake. There are huge disadvantages. And there will be a return to simplicity. The organic bodies will have been kept around in some cases, but not all. So this will be a problem for some, and there'll be body stealing and disputes over who has the rights to certain bodies that are don't have someone in a robot to take them anymore. But we will have learned how to extend life in our organic bodies, and we'll keep some of that technology from robots, but we will realize that actually having an organic body is a better thing than having a mechanical body.
I see. So we're going to be Cylons, and then we're going to come back to our senses.
Well, we're going to be Cylon Raiders maybe,
Got it. Okay.
and then become 6.
I see.
There's some precedents for this too. I mean, people, I don't know, we feel like this sometimes. We're so digitally, everything's so digital for us. And we're constantly interfaced with things. Our iPhones are going off. Emails are coming in. Sometimes you just want to break from all that and not touch any of it. And it's a huge mess when you come back to it. But, you just want to leave email for a few days and not come back to that stupid mess. And when you do, you kind of wish you could stay away from it longer. I think that as much as I love email, sometimes I hate it because it is so omnipotent or whatever the technology might be. So sure, if we get these bodies and we think, these new robot bodies, and we think, wow, everything's just a little too perfect. The reason for life being vibrant and interesting has been sort of taken from me because now I can't get hurt. Now I just jump from if this one gets hit by a bus, a future bus, I can just get thrown into another robot body. What's the fun in that? You kind of want to, for me to really appreciate your kids or your pets or each other. You kind of want to. There needs to be some risk to that, or else the appreciation gets diminished. So whether or not it's robot bodies or whatever it may be, I think there's just always going to be people who will innovate, and then we'll just kind of pull back a little bit.
Yeah, because I think what'll happen is we'll be like, oh, artificial heart, artificial liver, artificial leg. And eventually, people will move entirely into mechanical bodies thinking like, well, this is better, right? They don't wear out. They're easier to replace. They're easier to maintain. But then biological technology will start to catch up, and we'll realize actually just regrowing a leg is much better than replacing it with an artificial leg. And so we'll have gotten to the point where so many people are entirely artificial at that point that it'll be a huge movement and sort of a reaction against the mechanical bodies to go back to basics.
So I got a question for Kim. So this idea, okay, it's on the show all the time. It comes up like harvested organs, and not the kind where somebody wakes up in a Vegas hotel in ice and there's their heart's gone or
Not
whatever.
like what happened to me and Scott.
Their heart's gone.
Yeah, not the thing that happens to Tom every time he goes to CES. Not that. but no, when the idea that we could have some kind of machine that would generate a new liver or a new leg or whatever.
There's your 3D.
There's your
printer.
yeah. There's your 3D printer right there. So we 3D print out a new let's say a new arm.
Okay.
Would you do that? Like, does that have this idea that it would be better, stronger, you'd lift more?
I think you'd be crazy to think anyone would deny that if that was their only choice. It was to go with that artificial limb or nothing at all. Then I think anyone would try it.
So it's either that or some fake plastic thing that's no good. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So, I mean, if necessity obviously pushes us there, I guess the issue...
It wasn't necessity, though, if you just could choose a better arm as opposed to your own. I don't know. I mean, we probably would initially, which is what you're saying, right, Tom? Like, we would do that to begin with, but then we would start to go,
it'll start by people being forced into it, but it becomes a way to extend your life. Then it starts to become, well, you know what? It's just preventative medicine. That arm's gonna break down. So let's hook you up with a mechanical one.
Everyone's looking for that fountain of youth. Everyone's looking for something better, bigger and better at the time, but not with.
You're 35 now, Mr. Johnson. It's about time to consider the mechanical hip.
I actually don't think this is crazy.
It's not that crazy.
It's really not.
Well, the mechanical part,
you could do better.
But going back, abandoning it is the crazy part of the prediction.
Yeah.
Saying that we will actually turn against that and say, no, it's better to be mortal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eileen's fake new arm can play music for her while she's walking around.
I will.
Like a boombox, like this.
Little Blink 182.
Boom. A fake punk for you.
Yeah.
All right, Scott, I've been waiting for this. Please tell us your crazy-ass prediction.
All right, it's not as crazy ass as you think, but I think that vampire books are going to go the way of the dodo. Oh, I'm sorry, totally different show.
That's crazy.
Different topic.
That's crazy.
That's just a little jab at Eileen. No, I think that I think in about 10,000 years, maybe less, but let's say 10,000 years, most of humanity, if not all of humanity, probably all, we will have eaten up all the resources in the solar system that we can get our hands on. And I don't think in that time we'll figure out how to go beyond it very well, not efficiently enough to recolonize planets that are perhaps better for us somewhere else. We will develop technology where most of humanity will be able to live on the sun in protective orbs or pods that are all sort of connected. Just picture a big city, kind of like a gerbil or a hamster thing with all the tubes and crap. But we would all live in these little pods. They would not be affected by the heat in the sense that it wouldn't be able to get through to us. And we will never want for energy sources again because the sun will provide all of that. And we'll have perfected like holographic technology and other stuff to the point that we'll be able to simulate, the open air and grassy fields and all the things that we want to sort of be in. And we'll be able to sort of cultivate actual, land and water and the stuff that we loved from Earth. That'll all be reproduced in these pods. And the sun will just look like this crazy, like it'll have this lattice work all around it of humanity living in these little sun homes.
Stay in your pod.
Yeah. And we could be there for millions of years until the sun burns out. And I think that is how we'll survive. Everybody wants to go to Alpha Centauri and find a habitable planet, but I think it's the sun, and we just got to figure out how to get there safely, build that stuff without burning up, and then just
use it as an energy source.
Yeah, and use it for power.
You're talking about a Dyson sphere.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Except you're building it smaller with little pods to begin with instead of a huge sphere all at once. But Freeman Dyson postulated that if we built a sphere around the sun, we could actually live on the surface of the sphere and capture the energy of the sun to power our civilization.
Yeah, and I don't, having not read a lot of that, I don't know how far out we have to be. I mean, the idea that we could be on the surface of the sun and not just explode the minute we know how far we can be before, it's too much and any current technology be wiped out. That's why I think it's going to take this long. We're going to have to figure out some amazing thing. I'm a big fan of Sunshine, the movie, the Danny Boyle movie. And it always makes me think about that. Like, what would it take to get... I mean, in their case, they were restarting the sun with a blast, a nuke. And that's a whole different kind of storyline. But the idea that we could eventually travel that far, be able to get that close, establish some sort of base of operations, and then move humanity there while Earth is dying, that's something about that is very appealing on a sci-fi level for me. And I'm not going to be around to have to answer for this prediction. So
your brain moves in strange ways, Mr. Johnson.
yeah, and we won't be distracted by music or any of that. No music to play, no vampire books. We just go do the job.
I still think your long-term prediction is crazier than this one.
I like the sun pods.
Yeah, you know, Lady Gaga actually started the trend yesterday. She came into the Grammys in a shell, like an egg-like shell.
Great big egg, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's weird.
She's all right. She's on. She's with you.
She is from the future.
She's got the pod going.
Yeah. So if she's with you, then maybe this is probably going to come true. Just saying.
All right, me and Lady Gaga.
Yep.
I'll be Lord Gaga. She can be Lady Gaga.
Okay, it's time for 4 questions. This is the segment where each of our guests faced 4 rapid-fire questions about the future. You should not stop and think. Just answer, and whatever comes to mind. Free association time. Here we go. Kim, you've got your 4 questions for Scott.
She's asking me, right?
I'm asking you.
Right.
You're not asking me.
All right.
When the country breaks up into regional megastates.
Oh, listen to this, Tom.
Hey.
I wrote this before.
I'm liking it.
Anyway. Yeah.
Which region do you hope to be in at the time?
Which region? I want to be in the same region where I want to be in the high-tech region, the one that focuses on tech and innovation and discovery and stuff, whatever that is.
Neither science nor religion, then.
Yeah, well, no, let's say it's in, I don't know.
Don't think.
Stop thinking.
Don't think.
Okay, yeah, I can't think.
Stop thinking.
It's going to be in Alaska.
Okay. Next question.
Okay. Not really, but anyway, go ahead.
If you could announce one thing in Nerdtacular in June, which we are planning for right now, in front of everyone, what would it be?
Free PlayStation 3s and big screen TVs for everyone in attendance.
Wow.
Ooh.
It's not going to happen. I'm just saying if I could.
Oh, well, never mind.
Wow.
So now they're not coming.
Never mind.
Don't tell Patrick. That's why he's coming. Anyway.
Next question.
Yeah.
Of all the potential meats that could be cloned and grown in a machine, we talked about this last year when we were on, remember?
Oh, you guys, we did?
Which, yes.
Oh.
Which would you most want?
Which meat? Which artificial meat?
Which artificial meat?
Kobe beef.
Oh, yeah.
Always the answer. That's the answer to most questions.
That's
you could say, what time is the meeting? Kobe beef is the answer.
What would you like to give everyone in Nerdtacular next year?
Kobe
beef.
Beef.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, question number 4.
And you get Kobe beef.
Yay!
Go ahead.
When a time machine becomes reality and you could go back in time and change the name of one of our children, what would it be?
Don't think.
I don't think I would because I love all
Kobe
their
beef.
names.
Oh,
I think I would
come on.
Okay. I would go back and do the thing that we almost did that we're glad we didn't do, but I would do it for fun and then go back in time and change it again.
Okay.
Because we were going to name Nicholas Johnson. His name was going to be Harry Harrison. So people were going to call him Harry Johnson, and we got wise to that. And changed it. We really were. We were like seconds away from like birth certificate and everything. I'm like, well, wait a minute, honey. That's Harry for short.
Yeah.
And, nobody wants to be Harry Johnson. Anyway, so I'd go do that just to irritate him.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
And then I'd say, okay,
just
I'll go
get him
back.
through junior high.
Yeah, get him through junior high and then go back and change it. And then as if it never happened.
All right.
Wow.
Rapid fire. There you go.
Good job, Scott.
Good job, hon.
All right, Mr. Merritt, here we go.
Yes,
Question
ma'am.
number 1. What disaster movie best predicts the fate of our world? 2012, Deep Impact, 28 Days Later, or Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus?
Well, obviously Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus because monsters of the deep are real and are coming for us.
Okay. Question number 2. When will we be able to sell our condo? I mean, when will housing prices get better?
Never. We will never be able to sell our condo. Housing prices will continue to just tease us. Whatever we owe will be, the price of that condo will be just under that.
Well, we should just take a loss and
Forever.
cut it now. Number 3, what country will have the next revolution a la Egypt?
Indiana.
The nation of Indiana. The Indianians, rise up.
And number 4.
We want our split time zone back.
We're going to pelt everyone with basketballs until we get what we want.
Larry Bird will lead us.
Number 4, what is the hipster fad that will succumb to so yesterday a la Portlandia?
Beards.
Oh, man. That's not good for either of us.
Yeah, the hipster beard. Except I don't know that Scott, you and I, do we have hipster beards?
No.
No.
Or just
You have a better beard.
Traditional beards.
Yeah, we have they said additional, but
Let's
you
go.
said traditional.
Let's go Amish next with our beards.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm liking that.
I want to see the
It'd
hat.
be a good look for both
The
of us.
hat and the look,
Yeah.
everything.
Tom could call me at 5 a.m. and say, time for milking. It'd be great.
I'll take our wagon out to Nerdtacular. See you in a few weeks.
You have the dogs pull the wagon.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Good idea.
Well, I think that about does it for the show. I'd like to thank Scott and Tom for joining us.
Yes, thank you. So fun.
Well, that was a blast. I would like to do this every week, Tom. Can we get some new hosts so we can just come on and...
Wow, you know, I liked this show so much, I'd like to host it.
Yeah.
Oh, well. We'll see about that. Right, Kim?
We'll see if they give it up.
I don't think we're going to give
I
it up
don't know.
anymore. In fact, I have some ideas, Kim, on who we should book next week, so we should talk about that
Oh,
offline.
yes, we need to.
Yeah.
William Gibson. Who else? Some other TWIT alumni.
They'll
That'll be
start to
great.
get like actual futurist science fiction
Yeah.
writers. Arthur
Yeah.
C. Clarke resurrected from the dead.
It's like, man, you guys are way better bookers than we are.
Well, I
Tony?
do hope everyone enjoyed this special Valentine's Day edition of FourCast.
I definitely did. You did a wonderful
too.
job.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes, you too,
Valentine's Day,
hon.
everybody.
I'd kiss you on camera, but it'd be weird.
No PDA.
Yeah. If you watch The
PDA.
Office,
Watch
No
The
PDA.
Office.
you know.
Oh my gosh, that was funny.
That was a hilarious episode.
It's a great episode.
I'm telling you, this season to, say goodbye to Steve Carell has been pretty good.
Knocking it out of the park, those guys are
I agree.
this year.
Ooh, that was the
Before I go, I would like to put in another plug for BikeClubShow.com.
Thank you very
Hosted by
much.
Eileen Rivera, Twit's own Lynn Fu.
That's right.
Merrily from, she goes by Stephanie
Yes.
on the show, Stephanie Chu from Revision 3, and Shannon Morse,
Morse.
along with Josh Lawrence. They do a great job talking about things that bite. Werewolves, vampires.
No. We just talk about, dog bites and
Our dog, Sawyer.
children have bites.
Well, then I'd like to give a plug to the pork loin dinner Kim made for our traditional family Valentine's dinner tonight. I'm
I'd like
really
to-
excited about that.
I don't know if we can give a plug on that until I have a taste.
That's
You better
gonna
get on a
be.
flight.
She does it every year. Instead of us going out somewhere, we have a big thing with the kids because we figure they're the direct result
Oh my gosh.
of a passionate love affair that's lasted all these years, right?
Wow.
Have I just said too much? Maybe. Anyway,
This is
so
so
we spent it
awesome.
with them.
Scott, I have to say, I've been spending several weeks with you on the other podcast that we do together, but I have learned so much more in this little hour.
That's right. Catch Eileen Rivera and Scott Johnson along with Eric Van Skyhawk
This is
on
like the-
App Slappy.
It's like the major, let's plug.
That's what we
Let's
do
do
at the
it.
end of the show.
Oh, really?
It's end of the show plug time.
Well, we
This is
didn't
what
do
we do,
that
and
much
you know what?
plugging when we were on last year, right, Kim?
Well,
That's
let me
right.
tell you this: App Slappy.
We were hosting.
I don't say this just because I'm trying to butter Eileen up or anything, but
Leave that to me, Johnson.
That show took a jump in for the better when Eileen came on. So
Thank
I
you.
really love having you on there. It's
Some
great.
people don't think so, but thank you. There's always people who don't like change. It's just the way it is. I
That's
understand.
the way it is.
It's just the way it is, baby. All right. Don't forget to leave comments at our website, fourcastpodcast.com, or send us an email to fourcastpodcast@gmail.com. I'm Eileen.
I'm Kim.
Till next time.
See you.
Hi, everybody. Yay!
But it's only 32 years away.
The plane in Spain
fine.
lands mainly
Or my Twitter,
In
on
Spain.
the runway.
at Eileen.
Plane in Spain. I can't
Lands
think of a better
mainly
one.
in the rain.
And it's going to rain in Spain, apparently. when
Is
we're
it
there.
really?
Yeah.
You know what? The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plane.
And it.
So your plane's going to be really wet.
Sorry.
See,
There's a place in France where the naked ladies dance.
The men don't care
No, they don't care. Patrick doesn't care.
because they can't afford to get in.